Hello and welcome to the third edition of the United Road podcast. I am very, very pleased to say that I have got a brilliant stand-up comedian joining me tonight. You may know him from Big Brother Late and Live at the Apollo, or me more recently, his lovely specials, those very funny specials out on YouTube. I'm really happy to introduce Kae Kurd. Kae, how you doing, mate?
I'm good, mate. Thanks for having me. This is a pleasure. Always a pleasure to talk about Man United, isn't it?
Is it? I
Yeah.
don't know if it is, to be honest, at the minute.
Listen, we even if we are terrible, we're still better than most people in it. So
Yeah.
we've just got
We've
to
really tried
embrace it.
to. We were speaking a bit before. We're really going to try and spin it in a positive way tonight. We don't want to be negative. I know it might be hard for some people, but we really want to try and keep it as positive as possible. Some good things are going on around the club, aren't they? So we'll
Yeah.
try and we'll
Well,
focus on the positive.
I'm always quite optimistic anyway. To be fair, I'm not like that's probably why I could never do a Man United fan channel or anything because I wouldn't be the one slagging players off. I'd be like, well, at least he was running, it was good, wouldn't it? So yeah, hopefully this will be fun.
Yeah, I mean, I suppose you could say criticism of the players, I guess, but you as long as it's done in the right way. But we won't comment too much on that for many reasons. I think we both know why. But yeah, I think obviously mainly talking about Man United. Otherwise, it wouldn't be called the United Road podcast for obvious reasons. But obviously, more recently, Man United had a game against Everton. There was a lot of talking points about that game, and obviously, I think there was the main talking point was probably the performance more so than the result, which I suppose you can understand given recent history in terms of how we've been playing. But talk to me a little bit about what you thought, mate. I thought in terms of the win, it was the most important thing. Yes, I'd like to have seen the performance be a lot better. 2 penalties, 2 goals. You know, things could have been better. But what did you make of the game as a whole?
I thought it was quite similar to most of our performances in the last few weeks, to be honest with you, in recent times. It was the same old story, really. We got the win, but the performance wasn't where we wanted it to be, and our youth players or our younger players were shining. Garnacho did well. To the fact that he was even in those positions to be able to get fouled to get the penalty is quite promising. But it's just been the same old story since the beginning of the season. The performances aren't there. But like we said, we've got to take the positives that we can. And that's that we've got some great young players. We got the win. It could have been much, much worse. And thankfully, Everton can't score a goal to save their lives. But I thought we were I thought we were playing quite well to begin with, but then it sort of like it just got Casemiro started giving away some certain balls and whatever, and it just turned into the same old stuff we'd seen over the past few weeks. But look, man, like I said, Garnacho's playing well, Mainu's incredible. These are the positives that we can take through for the next few months going forward.
Yeah, I probably agree with that. I think the thing is as well is with the young players, the academy players as well, so to speak. But they're the ones that are kind of the shining light of the season.
Yeah,
It's not been great,
yeah,
has it, in terms of performances? But we've got that sort of hope. And
yeah.
obviously, it's a bit of a dawn of a new era and stuff. And we've got young players that are probably going to be sort of the catalysts that take us forward, which is really good. But
Young players and academy players like Johnny Evans, they're amazing. Do you know what I mean? Like academy players like Johnny Evans.
do you
He's
know
got,
what?
I, yeah,
It is mental, isn't it? How we are potentially talking about. I mean, is this controversial? But is our player of the season so far probably Johnny Evans?
I'd say when it comes to consistency, he's been there, and whenever you've needed him, I wouldn't. That's a great shout. I wouldn't protest that. The thing is with Johnny Evans, when he first came in, I thought he was coming in just to, um, that record where it's like we've still got a player from Sir Alex's reign because like De Gea left, and then
Yeah, yeah,
yeah,
yeah.
and it was like, oh, there's no one left from Sir Alex's reign, and then it's like, no, we're going to bring him back. I thought it was just to carry that on, but ever since he's come in, he's been great. And do you know what? I'm almost like, let's just keep him for another season because he's on less wages than Varane, and he's probably a bit more reliable as a backup than you'd get anywhere else. So why not? I
Yeah,
mean,
I mean,
obviously with Man United, it's not that's not the level that you want um, your first choice central defenders to be at, but you know.
yeah, I mean, I think you and I both full well know though, but he wasn't brought in to be first. He was probably brought in to be 4th or 5th, and then
Yeah.
United's horrendous luck with injuries this year has ended up carrying him on to probably being our best performing consistent defender of the season,
By the
which is
way,
never thought a year ago, would you?
yeah, no, of course, but I don't think Johnny Evans should have been able to leave the club anyway. All those years ago, I still don't think Johnny Evans should have left the club. I thought it was absolutely ridiculous. It was, I think he left under Van Gaal, didn't he?
I think it was Van Gaal, yeah.
Yeah, and he got rid of like Rafael da Silva and a bunch of others. Like, I think it was Chicharito and a bunch of those guys.
He got rid of a
And
few players, didn't he? Mourinho
yeah,
even said I wouldn't have sold. So it was a little bit of a strange
yeah,
choice in some of them. You'd have
yeah, and
thought at the
yeah.
time it'd be the right one, but I wouldn't have
No,
agreed.
I
I think.
think at that time, for like as well, those guys were Man United. Like they understood the Man United way. They understood the
Yeah.
standards that were required to play for Man United, and they also understood how special it was to play for Manchester United. But then once they sort of left, it was like this massive exodus, and you're bringing in people like Tyler Blackett and Cameron Borthwick Jackson, like who were playing that like first team essentially. It sort of started falling apart, like, and then you get players like Di Maria coming in and stuff that don't really appreciate being there. People like Johnny Evans should have never have left. Who were they looking up to in that dressing room at that point?
Oh, that's been an issue at United
Yeah,
since Ferguson left, though. There hasn't been
exactly.
that
Yeah,
senior player. Johnny Evans probably was starting to become that as well, I imagine, and
yeah,
he was gone. So was Hernandez. He was
yeah.
gone. Welbeck probably to an extent, although you could probably argue with his goals. But I know
By the
friends of
way,
mine
Welbeck's
absolutely
still
adore him.
doing. I
But he's
reckon Welbeck could still do a shift at United.
definitely. Do you know what as well with Welbeck? He's become this guy. I mean, he had issues with injuries for a couple of years, didn't he? Obviously went to
Yeah,
Arsenal. Then I think was it Watford, now at Brighton. He's had a really solid Premier League career, really, hasn't he? And
yeah.
it makes you think like stuff like that makes you think, with hindsight, could he have conceded at United, had a bit of a longer service, but all
Well,
that with
put it this
hindsight.
way. Put it this way. Like, is he better than Anthony Martial? Would you take him over Anthony Martial at the moment?
You probably, yeah, I think you'd take a lot of people over Marshall at the minute, though,
Well,
just because of his injuries, forms, various reasons.
exactly. Well, that's that, and that's my point. Like, if I reckon because he's one of those players that loves the club so much, he wouldn't have he wouldn't have minded playing a backup role at United,
Yeah,
as long
I'd
as it
agree
meant
with
he
that,
was,
to be fair.
yeah, as long as he meant he was part of the first team or whatever, and he'd get minutes here and there. And I think it would have been a useful addition to the squad. But this just goes to show you when you don't have a proper footballing structure, how it can impact you for years down the line, because players like that who are still playing in the Premier League to a decent standard, to be fair, they're playing in Europe as well, aren't they, Brighton? I mean, I know they
Mm.
got spanked
I
by
know they're
Roma.
about to be
Yeah.
knocked out, but yeah,
Yeah. But
definitely
still
about to be
playing in
knocked
Europe.
out.
Yeah, but still playing in Europe. Do you know what I mean? Like, so it just goes to show you how we've had such negligent owners that have left it to rot, unfortunately.
Well, obviously, the financial results came out today as well, and the debt's gone up again. So I think it kind of highlights it even further, doesn't it? But I
Yeah.
mean, you speak about the football structure there as well, and it kind of highlights against Everton again because of the injuries we've got.
Yeah.
In terms of trying to sort of have that positive spin, do you think obviously the most important thing is obviously results and just trying to
Yeah.
keep up with that top 4 or 5,
Mhm.
depending on how well we do, how the teams currently in Europe do. But with
We're not
given the
getting. It's
injuries,
not fair. It's not going to be top five. The
it's
way, yeah.
I'm trying
Unless
to
unless
find
you want
any
City
kind
or
of hope.
Liverpool to win it. Yeah.
That's the problem. It's like, oh, we get Champions League potentially with the top 5, or Liverpool and City go and potentially go far and potentially win it. I mean, obviously Arsenal is still in it, but the problem with Arsenal is that's who out of the 3 I'd want to win for such obvious reasons. But
But the Premier League, I'd want them to win the Premier League. I can't. There is no way in hell I, I can conceive of a world where I would be happy for Arsenal to win the Champions League.
yeah, no, obviously not the Champions
Can
League.
you imagine? Can you imagine their fans if Arsenal won the Champions League? We would never hear the end of it, Callum. You would have to get off of social media, because the amount of videos that you would see that would do your head in. That mirror behind you, I know you'd smash that into pieces, because
Yeah,
there is no way
it'd be
you'd be a sane
nutted on the
person.
wall.
Yeah.
It'd be horrendous. Do you know what? As well,
I've seen you
I
get
thought.
angry over less on Twitter. So that
Do you know
seeing
what?
Arsenal fans, yeah.
well, at least somebody's looking at me Twitter. I feel like
Yeah,
most people should probably mute it, to be honest, at this point. But it's been an angry few days on that platform. I'll be honest.
yeah.
But yeah, God, do you know what? I didn't even think of that. Arsenal fans. The thing is with them as well is these particular ones that you see that are fairly well known that constantly drone on about the undefeated season and how well it was. I still think to this day it's the most overrated thing that's ever happened, to be honest. I mean, didn't they draw like 11 times, knocked out of the League Cup
12,
by like Middlesbrough? It's
12.
just useless. But it's like, the problem we've got is we're having to put up with these terrible performances like against Everton and with the injuries we've got. But there is still quite a sizable unhappiness, isn't there, at the minute with the performances? Do you think it's a genuine issue? Do you think there's a long term issue there, or do you think it's just sort of about crawling over the line and getting to the end of
I
the season?
I it's sort of reminding me of that era under Van Gaal
Oh,
when
really?
when we weren't scoring to save our lives. We weren't losing, but we just weren't scoring any goals, and like Old Trafford
Won it
players
like
were even
11
scoring.
games and like
Yeah,
one goal or something. It was shocking,
yeah,
wasn't it?
yeah, and it got to that stage where even if United were on, you were like, "Do you know what? You'd watch it
Anfield
because
Road
you
shows on
wanted to."
BBC Two. Let's shove that on or
Yeah,
something.
yeah, yeah, but you weren't like, "Oh my god, United are playing." You were more like, "Oh god, like there's a match."
Do you
Like,
know what? I think the last time I felt like that was probably 2013, to be honest. But out of love, you want to still
yeah,
support and be
yeah,
there and watch it because you have to and you need
exactly,
to, kind of thing. But it's like
exactly.
it's
Yeah,
it's it's a bizarre one,
and I
isn't it?
and I feel like we're in that sort of period under Van Gaal, and an FA Cup didn't save him, and I'm worried because at the end of the day, football is about entertainment. As much as I mean, it's got a lot of other factors to it, but you want to watch football to be entertained, don't you? You don't watch it to be bored out of your mind, right? And we're not even showing any signs of like, I know it's become a football cliche, patterns of play or whatever, but it is quite worrying when we're going into every game and it's the same issues are being highlighted and the same you're seeing the same sort of stuff over and over again. And you're like, what is going on the training pitch? Because it's not like we're in Europe anymore. Do you know
Oh
what I
yeah.
mean? It's like you've got more time on a training pitch. What you've got a lot of your key players back. I know, obviously, you've still got Martinez out, and there's still a few injuries, but certain decisions that he makes still baffles me. Like Amari Forson coming on ahead of Ahmad, that kind of stuff really baffles me when you're seeing a guy that was tearing it up in a championship and it's not even getting given a look in. And it's certain things that just doesn't help him, if that makes sense. Like there's times
Yeah.
where you're like, just do something obvious that we think, like playing Ahmad, we'd be like, oh great, but then he'll play he'll bring Anthony on, and we're like, what are you doing? Like the what is going on?
You can I sometimes see his thinking with the Anthony thing because as not great as Anthony's probably been going forward, obviously, and his goals and assists show that. I think his work rate in defensive duties is probably really good. And I think when you compare that to Ahmad, there's probably been question marks about that. So you could sort of understand with Anthony sometimes. But the question marks I have around the Ahmad thing is he wanted to go out on loan in January, didn't he? And he said no because he'd be calling on him. And he's still played, I think, 40 minutes of football. He wanted
Yeah,
to go to African Cup of Nations. He said no because he needed him. And he's played 40 minutes of football. There's just, you kind of sum it up perfectly with his decisions. Some of his decisions are a little bit questionable. And it
yeah,
makes me think, what's going on here? Because, yeah, the Anthony thing, sometimes he shouldn't be coming on
no.
in comparison to Ahmad or even Forson, who you mentioned. But you then he's coming on and he's just not doing anything. Or
Well,
you'll
it's
see
our
with
it's like our left back situation as well, isn't it? It's very similar to that where you let
that
Reguilon go
is the
out.
most bizarre decision I've seen. This I'd love to know who's actually signed that out because it was fucking ridiculous, man. I just
Yeah,
don't understand how you can have a medical team say, "Oh, both left backs will be fit in January." One of them then immediately get injured, just literally the week after sending Reggie on back, and then the week later, sorry, and also in that same week selling Alvaro Fernandez or loaning him
yeah,
out, whatever we
yeah,
did, and then one coming back in January to then be injured until June. Like, how
yeah.
did they get it so bizarrely wrong?
Well, this is why I say, like, look, I think Ten Hag, right? He is. he's obviously a great tactician, right? If he was
Yeah.
the if he wasn't in charge now and we were looking for managers, Ten Hag would probably be top of the list anyway, right? Because his stock was so high. But I feel like every manager that gets into a job, to be a manager, you have to be a bit. You're not right over there. Do you know what I mean? You're not right up there. You've got
Yeah,
a
you
few
have to be a
screws
bit
loose.
screw loose, don't you?
Yeah, yeah, yeah. There's no way any normal person is looking at like a flip chart and just going, yeah, if I move a player here, and that's fun to them, right? That's not like normal. So I think they need somebody just ahead of them, just above them to go. No, shut up. You're not getting that. Right. This is what's happening. You need somebody that's in charge of the footballing structure and goes, this is the way we're playing. These are the players you're going to get. I mean, even Jurgen Klopp didn't want Mo Salah famously, didn't he? He wanted Julian Brandt.
Oh
Um,
yeah, of course, yeah.
and I mean, I hate to bring up Liverpool, but that's a great example of like when a manager hasn't necessarily got the best opinion, but somebody above him goes, no, look, we've done all the research on him. This guy is going to be incredible. So this is who you're going to get, and the rest is history. And I feel like with Ten Hag, he sort of needs somebody there, whether it be a Dan Ashworth or whatever it is, to go and say, hey, look, this is how we're going to do it. I think personally, with regards to Ten Hag, I think, like I said, it does feel reminiscent of the final days under Van Gaal. But I think right now to the end of the season, he is almost auditioning for his job now, right? It's got to that stage where it's like we have to see some positive upturn in either results or performance or both in order for you to stay the manager next season, right? And even then, I don't think he's necessarily safe. And I personally would give him till the end of the season, just because I think even getting rid of him now, we've seen interim managers don't work. Like, what are you going to get with an interim that you wouldn't have got with the guy in charge? You might as well just stick with it till the end. Um, keep him there till the end of the season. But I do wonder what it would be like with him having some structure, and I also wonder if he's somebody that would accept having a structure above him.
I think,
Part of me feels like he wants a bit of control. Yeah, sorry.
yeah, you brought me perfectly to what I was about to say. To be fair, it's like you read my mind because I think he's a great tactician and a great coach, and he showed that at Ajax. And
Yeah,
we obviously showed at Ajax. I know the
yeah,
leagues aren't the same, but he did really well in the Champions League with them. But he's shown he has a style of football, and I hate that. I hate the phrase because it makes me sound
yeah,
like a proper tactician, tactical kind of person. I feel like I can be quite old fashioned sometimes, but he is such a good tactician and a great
yeah,
coach, and he does have a style of play. And I feel like he's really come away from it at United. I think he's come away from what got him the job, to be honest.
yeah.
And
He shat himself after the second game
yeah, and
yeah, and then he hasn't got back to it since.
because obviously, I mean, he ended up adapting, didn't he? And he ended up obviously going on to do well, won a trophy, finished third, all that sort of good stuff. But I felt like that was the time to kick on, and obviously, it kind of hasn't happened. And I get his excuses in terms of injuries and things like that, but he's come away. I feel so far away from what got him the United job in the first
Yeah,
place, and it makes me
yeah,
think, go back to what you know. And the way
yeah,
you can do that is with Ineos's help, with Ineos's
yeah,
new structure that they want to implement and bring in, because it'll leave him to be able to do what he can do. He'll be able to he'll be able to come into the coaching now and come into his own by telling the players, this is how I want you to be. If you don't like it, goodbye. And I think that's
yeah,
kind of how it needs to be, especially in the modern game, because it's moved on so much. Managers aren't
no,
recruiters now. Managers aren't the person that signs off they kind of have a team above them. This is who we want to
yeah,
sign. Does it work with my style?
yeah,
Yeah, bring him in. And I get he's probably had a terrible structure, and I sympathise with him on that. But ultimately, this Ineos test is what would bring him
yeah,
into being a thriving coach for Man United. And if he doesn't want to work with that, then that's what would concern me. Because why
yeah.
wouldn't he want to? Surely
Of
that's what would
course.
make him the next step and that
Well,
next
yeah,
level as being night manager.
yeah. Well, the job of Man United manager was always too big for anybody that was going to take over, right? And I feel like
Yeah,
it's been well overdue for them to break that role apart, because Sir Alex did everything right. He was a director of football, head of academy. He was the
he
manager. He was
oversaw a club,
yeah,
didn't he?
yeah, exactly. And I think that was it was just laughable for you to believe that somebody else could come in and just do everything that he done. And also, what you don't really it's a bit like when you build a house, like you build an extension onto it, or you
Great
do you know
comment.
what I mean? Like you do it bit by bit, right? Don't you?
Yeah.
You don't do it all at the same time. But then if somebody else has to come and be in charge of the maintenance of it, they're going to be like, well, how the fuck do you do this? And I feel like we're a bit like that. I just saw that comment from John Shin.
Yeah. Shout out John Shin, great lad.
Mate, I get a haircut every week and a beard trim once a week as well. So there you go.
I mean, I'll be honest. I feel like the Beard game tonight on the show is pretty strong, so I'm a
Yeah.
little bit offended. I'll be honest, a little bit offended. I am here, but I mean, you are right. Sorry for the interruption. I just thought that was a
Yeah.
really good compliment for you, mate. um, but that's what I mean. I think with Ten Hag, that it is concerning. I think
Yeah.
what is coming for him, I think, should really bring him onto his own. And if he wouldn't want to work with that'd concern me more than anything.
Yes. Yeah, I mean, and also, fuck me. Have you seen the list of names that that are being touted for the next United manager? It
They very
is.
much they very much underwhelm me. I don't know about you.
Listen, if Gareth Southgate becomes Manchester United manager, I don't think you're going to see me tweet about football for the duration of his tenureship. I think I'll sort of be done with watching us play. I just
Yeah,
can't imagine if Gareth Southgate becomes Man United manager. I don't know. There's no way I could contain myself because I'd rather not be negative online about the club. But if Gareth Southgate is manager, I don't know. I mean, I'll probably cry. And Graham Potter doesn't exactly fill me with any sort of like. If you couldn't handle the Chelsea job, there's no way you can handle the Man United job. Like, I'm sorry, but if you thought you were under pressure and you thought you were under scrutiny at Chelsea FC, wait till you come to Manchester United and see like there's Spanish media in there like grilling you, right?
yeah.
Like,
Do you know
yeah.
what? I I would slightly disagree. Out of them all, I wouldn't. Out of all of them, underwhelm me. Don't get me wrong, but I wouldn't mind Potter that much. I don't think. I think his time at Chelsea was probably a bit like Rashford under Rangnick. Like it was just an outlier. It was mental, useless, pointless.
I think he needs another job before he jumps back into the
Yeah,
United
I'd
role.
agree with that, but
Yeah,
I think some people are really writing him off because of the Chelsea spell. I certainly don't think he should be United manager. Don't get me
no,
wrong, but
no.
I think some of his criticism can be a bit unfair. Um,
Yeah.
I don't think he's as bad as made out. I don't think he's as good as some would make out. I certainly don't think he's as bad, and I think the
Oh,
Chelsea
I don't
stint
think
has
I
done him
agree
on a
with
bit
you. I don't
down.
think he's as bad, but I just don't think that he can handle the pressure, and I think he needs to take sort of a step above um, Brighton, but a step below Chelsea, and I don't know what that is. I don't know, maybe a West Ham or something,
Yeah,
before he can get back to a Man United, because I just can't see him being able to handle that level of pressure. You've got to understand.
sounds a great shout.
Sorry.
West Ham's a great shout.
Yeah, yeah. I think you've got to understand with a team like Man United, it will be very hard for him to understand that you have to win every game. That's the expectation, right? Obviously, we don't expect to win every game, but we sort of that's the
I
levels.
think
You know what I
I
mean?
think I think our tradition of 10 years
Yeah,
ago and when we grew up,
yeah,
we probably still do have that mindset of,
yeah,
well, we should win that game.
yeah. But I always think that's what you should be aiming for at a big club as well. I mean, we're probably the biggest club in the world, but when you look at places like Madrid, they wouldn't accept a loss and be all right with it. And I don't think any sort of fan base, any sort of Manchester United fan base is ever going to be happy with you losing a game. But also on the flip side, if you lose a game and it looks like you actually gave it your all, we're a bit more forgiving.
Yeah, certainly. Well, absolutely, definitely, to be fair.
Yeah. But
That's
it's
been a
when we
massive
see you
criticism, right?
down tools, isn't it? That's when we're like, all right, come on, guys, we've got to
Yeah,
win.
it's a saying we love as United fans, isn't it? I
Yeah.
think
Yeah.
it's something I feel like during the certain Solskjaer days, I think I wanted to get that tattooed on my forehead, to be honest, because I said it that much. I had such a love for Solskjaer, and
I'd bring him back.
mm, out of all of those names as
Bring
well
him back.
that you've just
Yeah.
mentioned, I'd rather Solskjaer come back,
Yeah. Yeah.
genuinely. And I think his point that he made on the overlap as well. I don't know if you watched it, but
I did. Yeah.
the point he made on the overlap about Rangnick coming in and he thinks he would have still got top four. Well, to be
I
honest,
agree.
I'd agree because I mean I still think the Ronaldo signing was a disaster. It was kind of good to hear it finally admitted from the horse's mouth, I guess. Because I've got a really big opinion on that from back in the day, to be honest, and the way it happened and how it happened. I think it was a massive, massive problem. But the
Do
fact
you?
that,
Why? Sorry, you can't just
well,
gloss over that.
yeah, I just quickly, I mean, I think the way we were playing was really good. I think we were playing really well. The football that he wanted to play was quite clearly on show. I think it was was it the season we won 5-1 against Leeds, first game? I'm sure it was.
Yeah,
If it wasn't, someone correct me in the comments, but I'm pretty sure it was. Playing really good football, and then Ronaldo came in, and there was just a big shift. And I feel like the mentality he brought was right, and some of the players didn't buy into it, and that was obviously a problem. That was a really big problem on the players' side. But it massively affected how we played because we catered to Ronaldo so much. Like he
yeah,
said, Cavani massively was affected by it. Really, Cavani should have been our starting striker or Martial, and Ronaldo shouldn't have been signed. And I always said as well in that summer that Man United should have gone and signed Declan Rice or
yeah,
someone of that ilk to go
yeah,
into the midfield
yeah,
instead of Ronaldo.
yeah.
And people remember it slightly different that, oh well, we would have signed a midfielder, but we wouldn't.
No,
Our transfer window was done.
yeah,
It was the Glazers weren't releasing any more funds. We were done. We weren't buying
yeah.
anybody. The only reason why we bought Ronaldo is because of his agent and because of what happened with City and all that. That's why we bought him. And we should have gone and got a midfielder. That would have kicked us onto a
Yeah,
potential
if you'd
league
have given
title under
Ollie
Solskjaer.
Casemiro, what would have happened?
Yeah, someone
Yeah,
like
if you'd have given him.
Casemiro, a De Jong, a Rice, somebody of any kind of defensive
But I'm
midfield
saying because
quality.
obviously they got Casemiro the year after. I'm like, if they'd have
Yeah,
got Casemiro that transfer window
a
instead
younger
of Ronaldo,
Casemiro as well. Yeah,
yeah, it would have been. I think it would have been a much different story as well. But yeah, with all those names, bro, just bring Ollie back, man. The vibes were unmatched. It was fun, and I think Ollie's got a bit more experience now, and he knows what he'd do if he was to tackle it a second time round, as well as him being given the what's it? As well as him being given like the structure with Ineos and stuff, and him being able to actually get the targets that he wants. I think
mm.
I think he'd do a lot better than Potter, Southgate. Was it
Southgate makes me want to
Inzaghi?
cry. Like, absolutely cry.
Thiago Motta. Thiago Motta's the only name that's sort of there, and Ruben Amorim. But yeah, Southgate. You're right. Like Southgate, I don't know, man. I think I'd probably take up watching badminton.
Oh, Gareth I feel like I am watching badminton now when I watch England under
Yeah,
Southgate. That's the issue. And my God, I remember the days of Van Halen. We thought that was boring, but Southgate would genuinely bore me to death. And I can't be bothered with that. The fact that he was even touted as Man United manager he's got a worse CV than what Solskjaer had, I would argue. And Solskjaer got pelters. I could guarantee you
yes.
Southgate wouldn't. Like,
No.
it, oh, I mean,
Would you
watching
take
him.
Mourinho back?
No, I
Yeah, cool.
no.
Same.
I
Same here.
I have a soft spot for Mourinho. I really do, but
Yeah.
no, I think there's clearly a reason maybe why he's a 2-3 year manager, and then the next one.
Yeah.
He's not a long
Well,
term project, is
it's
he?
interesting. I don't know if you've seen a couple of the interviews. Obviously, the Solskjaer one, and then Rio done one with Mourinho.
Mm,
With all these interviews, you sort of see like Solskjaer and Mourinho going, "Well, I wanted so and so, I wanted this so and so, and I never got them. I wanted to
mm.
do this, I wanted to do this, but I wasn't allowed." Which is the only reason why I'm saying let's stick with Ten Hag, because I'm like, what is he asking, and he's not been getting. So let's see how he does after a bit of time under Ineos.
Yeah, that's what I mean. The problem I've got with it as well is like it seems like you said before, he really is auditioning for his job, isn't he? And I
Yeah.
don't think it's fair. The problem is we've got a massive game on Sunday against Liverpool, which we'll speak a little bit about later. But
Oh
we've got
God.
such a big game against them, and I mean that is really worrying. And you know, I know we said about the positive spin, but come on, let's be realistic. It's going to be tough. And the thing is as well with the Scousers is it's the quarterfinal of the FA Cup. If that gets knocked out of no more trophies, we're already, I think we're 8 points off 5th or 4th. It would have helped if I did research before this podcast, but I forgot. But we're not exactly a point or two off the top 4, put it that way,
No.
right? So it feels like it's a little bit of a season ender. I know we've still got to
Yeah.
chase and we're still technically within touching distance and all that, but it does feel like it could be a little bit of a season ender, and I'd be worried that the players would do that. I hope Ten Hag wouldn't think that as well. I'd like to hope that none of them would think that, but if that's the case, would that make Ineos bite the bullet earlier if they felt because I think Ineos already know now
Yeah,
if he's his manager or not, and it's like,
yeah,
is he auditioning to try and change the minds, or is it kind of a non-starter and he's kind of done? And I think it worries me a little bit for him because I think Ten Hag under a proper structure with proper backing with proper help that allows him to have that training ground influence. I really think he could be a good manager for us
yeah, yeah,
eventually.
yeah, yeah. Well, let's see. Let's see. Hopefully, he sorts it out over the next few weeks. But I mean, let's be positive about the Liverpool game. I think Onana's the only Onana's the only keeper to go to Anfield and keep a clean sheet this season. So
Which
I know the
is
games at Old Trafford.
mental, isn't it?
Yeah, I know the games at Old Trafford, which is going to be better for us. So I think let's just stay optimistic because I think Hoyland might be back. And is he back? I think he's back, isn't he?
Potentially, I think there was a comment
Yeah,
about from the Denmark manager who said he should be. So I think
brilliant,
it's potential.
brilliant. So we're going to do them 2-0. So that's that. On
Is
to
that
the next.
is that your final prediction and final answer? 2-0 Liverpool. Are we holding you out and clipping it and making sure the whole world sees it? Is that really what
2-1.
we're going
Let's
with?
go 2-1. Let's go 2-1.
We'll go 2-1. Right. I mean, to be fair, if it was at Anfield, I'd be petrified just because
Yeah.
they'd probably turn the tannoy speaker a bit too loud. But I think would it be in at Old Trafford, I've got a little bit more faith. So I mean, I won't go 2-1. I'll say a cheeky 1-0 Bruno
I am
penalty or
I,
something like that.
I am terrified of gigging when Man United and Liverpool play now because
Oh, really? Why?
when we lost when it was 7-2, right?
What, the 7-0 one?
Yeah, 7-0. Sorry, yeah, it was 7-0.
I love how you tried to paint that as something better than it
Yeah,
ever was.
yeah. 7-0. I was hosting a charity gig and we were losing 7-0, and I was like, how has this happened? And when we lost against them 5-0, I was doing a tour show in Birmingham, and me and Ishan Akbar were driving towards there, and I had it up on my phone, and then one went in, two went in, and then I just turned off my phone, and we were hearing the scores on radio, and I was getting the live score notifications. So now, if I'm gigging that day, I'm terrified. I'm like, we're gonna get
It's almost
absolutely
like a bad
smacked.
luck omen.
Yeah,
It's bizarre, and like I've never been superstitious, but with stuff like that, I'd wear the same T-shirt. I'd do everything I could just to make sure. But especially over the past few years when we've just been a bit dire, like it's a bit like
yeah, yeah,
anything that I can do to help, guys. Just let me know, and I'll wear whatever. I'll wear lucky T-shirt, lucky anything if it helps in any way.
yeah, yeah,
Um, my God, do you know what? It's weird, and it says a lot about the expectation, doesn't it? But and it's probably similar to the City game. We all expected worse. I think because we're going in expecting the worst at the minute.
yeah,
It's kind of almost like a preparation to not be too upset and wanting to put your head through a wall kind of scenario, I
yeah,
suppose. But
yeah.
it kind of brings us nicely onto it, I guess. So we'll chat about it. But what are kind of your thoughts with Liverpool? I know you said 2-1, but I know there's a couple of injuries coming back. But are you quietly confident? Is your heart ruling your head?
I'm, I know I said 2-1, but the way I saw Manchester City struggle against them did terrify me.
With the injuries they've got as well, I was
Yeah,
fairly surprised.
I was terrified. Seeing Luis Diaz make Kyle Walker look like an amateur was it was just mind blowing to me. I couldn't believe it. I was that surprised. But I just think there is something scary about Liverpool in the fact that obviously being Jurgen Klopp's last season, that could have gone one of two ways. It could have gone like the play. I mean, that it was that season years ago when Fergie said he was going to retire, right? Not 2013, but you know what?
2002, yeah.
Yeah, when he said, "Oh, I'm going to retire," and then I don't know, like it, everything seemed to fall apart. Not in a massive way, but there wasn't that. The players didn't galvanize around the team like you're seeing with Liverpool right now. It almost feels like everyone wants Klopp to do it around there, and that's quite scary because you're seeing kids come on and put in 10 out of 10 performances. Um, and it is worrying. Like especially like you said the other day against City, coming on with all those injuries, and they're still attacking. They're still attacking, and it was frightening. But having said that, we went to Anfield, and it was we didn't let them score. So what's to say we can't do that again at Old Trafford?
Yeah, I think I'd agree with it. I think that the problem with the Klopp and everyone, they've really romanticised him leaving. It's almost like he's dying. It's a bit
Yeah,
strange.
yeah, yeah.
Like,
I mean, listen, they can fucking fuck off with that as well. I mean, if I have to hear Sky Sports play "You'll Never Walk Alone" again, like, just skip, please. Just go to the team sheets.
do you know that song gives me PTSD when I hear it. It just reminds me of Sky Sports turning the volume up
Yeah,
for the crowd just so we can all hear how
yeah,
lovely they are when they sing, when in reality they
yeah,
sit in silence for the next 90 minutes. It 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 honestly gives me PTSD. Whenever I hear it, if it comes on the radio, which isn't really often, but it comes on the radio.
yeah.
Someone played at a funeral the other month, and I was just like, "Oh, I'm leaving. I can't be bothered." Literally had it on at a funeral. I was like, "Hang on a minute, what are you, a United fan? Is this like a prank or something you've played on him or something?" I mean, he's dead, but
Yeah.
it's not really fair. I was at oh, mate, it was shocking that. I had genuinely said to my mum, "What are
Yeah.
you?" I went to his funeral with my mum, and they played Never Walk Alone.
I
I was
could
like,
just
"You're a
imagine you.
massive
I
Man
could just
United fan.
imagine. I could just
What's going
imagine
on here?"
how angry you were.
Yeah,
Could
what
just
made it
imagine
worse
how
though, I was sat there like he's a massive. I know it was originally a United song years and years ago, but it's been that taken over. It's like someone's taking a piss here. Someone's not done
Yeah.
the research
Yeah.
properly here.
Yeah. Yeah. Of
Like,
course. Yeah.
my God. But yeah, anyway,
Yeah.
tangent.
But yeah, I mean, listen. We've got to try and be confident about it. But yeah, I honestly, I honestly think there is nothing. I mean, it could either go one way. We're either going to get mullered or it's going to be like really cagey. That's what it is.
Yeah, I said the
It,
exact same about the City game. I said it'll either be like a 5-6 niller because that's just in terms
yeah.
of injuries and how City were playing and all that sort of stuff. The thing is with the City games, I still didn't particularly feel like they got out of second gear and they beat us in that second
Yes.
half with ease. Then that was my worry. Would
Yeah.
it be the same with Liverpool? I mean, they've obviously got injuries. They've got young kids. I think with the right experience, United should really exploit that. Whether they will do or not, I don't know. But United have got enough to beat them, and I don't think it go. Correct me if I'm wrong, but I don't think it goes to a replay either. I think it does go to extra time, does it? Obviously, it's a little
What
bit
is it? A
later, isn't it?
semi-final or a quarter? It's a quarter-final, right?
Quarter, yeah. I don't think it
Yeah. I don't
goes
know.
for replays, does it? I think it was only the earlier stages that it does.
I don't know if they've got rid of it
Again,
in
it would have
recently.
helped if I'd
Yeah.
have done my research, but
Yeah. Yeah.
it
I
would
mean,
have really
I'm
helped.
not sure about that anymore. Yeah, but man, it is terrifying, isn't it? But yeah, let's just say 2-1 just to be safe because yeah, but they are quite scary. But like I thought the same thing about a City game. I thought we were going to get. I honestly was so surprised when we scored first against City because I thought there is no way in hell we're getting anything from this match. And credit to Marcus Rashford. That what a strike that was. I
Yeah, it was
mean,
unreal, wasn't it?
I mean, for the performances we've put out this year, some of the goals we've scored have been fucking awesome.
Do you know what though? You say that as well, right? Obviously, it wasn't particularly a team goal that Rashford scored. It was just an incredible strike.
Yeah,
But some of the slight glimpses of that team play just makes me think, Ten Hag, please, please, just keep doing that.
yeah,
Keep doing that sort of
yeah,
passing play and that little intricate movements because when it works, God, it looks good. And
yeah,
when it's done right, it's so good. And teams
yeah,
can't beat it. And it's like just try and do that, and we'll all love
yeah,
it. Just
yeah,
do
yeah,
it more for God's sake, and we'll be fine.
yeah. But we have had some great goals from individual brilliance, though. I mean, for
Yeah,
all
of
they said
course.
under Ollie, everything was individual brilliance. We've seen some fucking crackers, man. Like we've seen some that Marcus goal. Obviously, you had the Garnacho goal. There's been a couple of others as well, man. Off the top of my head, I can't. Hoyland had a really good goal as well, didn't he?
Yeah, Hoyland's scored
Yeah,
some really good, proper nifty
yeah,
striker goals as well,
yeah,
hasn't he?
yeah. So like, do you know, like, yeah, anything can happen as well. Like, you know, we'll see. It's on Saturday or Sunday, isn't it?
Sunday, I think it's Sunday at half
Sunday, yeah.
three. I'll be on
Yeah.
Stratford Paddock as well for it if anyone wants to
Oh,
tune in for that.
lovely.
But I mean, it's just a tiny little plug there. But it's I'm going to go 1-0. I think 2-1's not a bad shout. I think it will be a cagey game. I think
Yeah.
Liverpool will go for it, but not as much as they will do at Anfield. I think Old Trafford's going to play a big factor. I think the crowd that's there on Sunday is going to be a big play
Yeah.
in the final result, I think. I did want to ask you as well, Kay, because obviously last Jay and Gaz, who was on last week,
Yeah.
and it was also the last article I wrote a few weeks ago. But what's kind of your thoughts on the whole? I know it's coming to the news a little bit more with the task force and stuff, but what's kind of your thought process on Old Trafford? Do we rebuild? Do we knock down? Do we renovate? What's kind of your thought process around it?
Right. So in an ideal world, we'd be able to renovate it because that's what they've done with the Bernabeu. That's what they're doing to the new camp. That's what they're doing with all these iconic stadiums. But my only thing is, where do we play when we're
Yeah.
renovating? Where do
So
we play?
yeah, Gaz had a good point. I think it was one of his only good points last week, to be fair. But he had a good point that we play at Wembley, right? Now I know all the jokes,
You're,
all United fans from London and all that, but he
oh
made a
my,
really good
no.
he made a really good point about it that, and I actually agreed with it, that you give season ticket holders an option to pause the season ticket, literally just pause it for the season. Fans get subsidised travel to Wembley from the club and play at
Callum.
Wembley for a season. And I
Callum.
thought it's the only. I'm not saying it's a viable option, but it's the only
Was he
option. Surely,
smoking weed while he was saying this?
probably.
Because listen, there is no that is not a viable option. Whatever, and I know you said it's a great point. I don't even think it's a great point. There is no way you can have because it's not going to be a year. You think a stadium's going to be built in a year?
Well, how long did Tottenham's take? It took. Oh no, it took 2 seasons, didn't it? Actually,
It took,
but it'd
yeah.
be. But they played at White Hart Lane, built half of it, then moved to Wembley for a year and built the other half, didn't they? So could that not be something similar to do with United, or I don't know.
Listen. I
That's the
don't think
problem.
there's
United haven't got another stadium to go to, have
no.
they?
That's it. That's exactly it, right? Unless you go to Bolton.
Well, I
Yeah,
don't know if that'd work. It'd be one of them.
yeah.
You'd end up turning. How many does Bolton hold? 20,000.
Yeah,
That'd be
or like Ewood
mental.
Park or something like that, or like, I mean, God forbid, Turfmoor.
I think the stadium would fall apart if we went there.
Yeah, yeah,
Like quite
exactly that.
literally.
And also, I don't think another Premier League side would allow United fans to use their stadium. Can you imagine? We'd be trashing it every
Yeah, yeah.
week.
Probably making it better. And so, do you know what? As well, as funny as
If
it
it's
kind of
if
sounds.
they gave up, I mean, they're never going to let us go to the Etihad. But if we were playing at the Etihad every week, I don't think. I mean, you and I would treat another person's stadium with the utmost respect, Callum.
I'm sure we would.
However,
Very
however,
respectfully.
however, we're talking about football fans, and I don't, I don't
Well,
think, I don't think some people would treat it as we would, Callum. There'd be a lot more, Oh, sorry, I didn't know you weren't allowed lighters in the building.
yeah, just people vaping and having cigarettes out the mouth and spliffs and all that sort of stuff.
Yeah,
It,
there wouldn't be chairs left.
that's the thing. I think you would get that. Do you know what? You get them
Yeah,
anywhere. I'm sure you do. But
yeah,
City's ground would probably be
yeah,
most likely
yeah,
trashed. Not that we'd want to play there anyway. It'd look bizarre with United
yeah,
having all in a
yeah,
blue stadium. It would look really bizarre. But
yeah.
the Wembley being in London and Tottenham being in London allowed them to do that.
Absolutely, yeah.
There's so many logistical issues. There's literally not an easy answer, which is why I
No.
imagine this task force has been created. But
Well, I think listen, everybody has probably said this whenever a massive team's left their grounds, but I do think this idea that people are touting now that are saying if we have a new stadium built on the same sort of site, but then use Old Trafford as the academy stadium and the women's stadium, I don't think that's a bad shout if you reduce the capacity of Old Trafford. Because that way you still get the best of both worlds. You get like all the youth players can still play on that pitch that's got all the history, and then you can get a brand new state of the art stadium. Um, and plus, like if you can redevelop that area, I mean, sometimes if you're gonna go for tradition, let's go full in. Let's have hooliganism back the lot.
Let's just
But if
have
you wanna, yeah, if you wanna,
hooliganism, racism,
yeah.
sexism, everything. Let's bring it all back.
Yeah, but if you wanna modernize it, right? If you wanna get with the times, and we need to regenerate that whole area, then I think like new stadium, unfortunately, is probably the best way to go. But
Yeah,
I mean, like I said, I'd be more of a fan of renovating it. It's just logistically, I just don't understand how it's ever going to make sense because it's going to take more than a season or two.
it's
It
gonna take.
definitely is. Yeah, you look at like how long the Emirates took to build. Um,
Well,
it's
I mean,
yeah,
Wembley
it's
as well took a long time
yeah.
too.
I just can't see how we're going to be in a situation where United have to play at somebody else's ground for more than 2 or 3 years. But it just goes to show the neglect because even when Madrid, there was a few games where they couldn't play at the Bernabeu. They were playing it in their academy stadium or something like that.
Yeah, exactly.
And
They
we
played
don't
it
even
somewhere
have
else. They
that.
had half the stadium
Yeah.
empty, didn't they? It's just not a viable option for United. When you think about the biggest club in the world, or one of, if you want to argue it, but it should be better, shouldn't it? And
Yeah.
do you know what the thing is? As well, I don't really know. I actually that's where I'm from. That I literally grew up next to the ground, so I know it
Yeah.
really well in terms of parts of that area are quite run down still and
Yeah.
probably needed a bit more renovation even when I was growing up there, which was 10, 15 years ago.
Yeah.
The the problem is it has been left to neglect for so many different reasons, one of which one of the major reasons being that the owners have neglected it, but the the love and care that it now needs to keep Old Trafford means the most viable option probably is a brand new stadium. And I'm not
Yeah.
against it at all, especially with it being on the same site because
Yeah.
Bayern Munich did it, Juventus did it, and they still kept all the
Yeah.
traditions. Like
Yeah.
Jay said the other week, they've still kept those traditions and that
Yeah.
history and the meaning of the club. So there's no reason why United can't do it. But
Yeah.
also, I don't know how
Yeah.
much of that land around the club that we do actually own, and if there's enough room for us to build another stadium there and keep Old Trafford and all that. So that's all the stuff that I mean. It's a good job they didn't ask me to go on the task force because I'd have just been sat in the corner going, I don't know. But
Would you
there's
get
so
rid of Lou Macari's chip shop? That's the real hard hitting questions we need to know.
it's more the bigger debate is would you get rid of the Bishop's Blaze and would you get rid of the what's the other one, the Corner Cafe as well? I'd much
Yeah.
rather get rid of the big freaking Ford garage and move that out of the way and put the stadium there. But because Lou Macari's chip shop, if you've never been, is lovely. But yeah, the whole area just there's such a logistical issue of it all that it
Yeah.
will need a very long thought out process just to decide on
But
next steps.
the only reason I'm not against a brand new stadium as well is can you because if we're gonna do it, we're gonna do it like the best in class, aren't we? Because
Yeah,
that's what it
exactly.
seems like Ineos are about. And can you imagine having a stadium that's like 100,000 seater stadium? Do you know what I
Because
mean? Like
that's
yeah,
what it'd be as well.
yeah, yeah. There's things to do as well. Like, do you know what I mean? Around it, like things to help the atmosphere get going really early on during the day because at the moment when you go to Old Trafford, there's not really much to do around there during the like before a match, is there?
No, I mean, to be fair,
Yeah,
when I go fairly regularly,
yeah,
and it is always the railway or Trafford or the toll gate or the Bishop, or you
yeah,
go into town first.
yeah,
You'd very, 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 very rarely go to Old Trafford beforehand and drink in the
exactly,
terraces. I mean, it's only
exactly.
this season or the season before that we actually got bleeding signal on our phone when you were in Old
Yeah,
Trafford.
yeah,
I mean,
yeah,
that
yeah.
says everything. Like,
But I mean I've seen other people say it online as well. The idea if you had like a proper like sort of kind of bar or something like that to begin with, like where you could literally watch the early kickoffs and stuff like that, where you could get an atmosphere going around the stadium or in the stadium. It would be awesome because by the time it came to like a 3 p.m. kickoff or whatever, you've already had people around there for ages and ages and ages just enjoying it and it helped with revenue streams as well. That's
yeah, I
what
mean,
I
long,
always thinking about. Yeah. If
yeah,
you
exactly.
if you can use your stadium during the week for concerts or whatever it is, like that's what Tottenham have been really good at doing, like having Beyonce come to town. They've got like a F1 sort of track in there or something as well.
Yeah, which is
Like
bizarre.
yeah, that sort of stuff. If you can, I mean, you've got to be very honest about it. In this day and age, a stadium can't just be used for football, unfortunately. Like if the Bernabeu there, I think they're trying to use it for like the tennis and basketball games, that sort of stuff as well. So If we can do something remotely similar to that and have everything around it, create a sort of vibe to get youngsters back in it. I mean, tickets are quite expensive as they are. If you can have areas within the ground that are cheaper for younger kids and well younger adults to get into. I mean, I know that you see pictures of those lads always doing the away games, doing the rounds. But I'd never take the mick out of those guys, and I always see
People that
people
do it
online.
are stupid
Yeah,
as well.
yeah, I see people taking a mick out of them. Like I find it so endearing that a group of young lads like that go around and follow their football club all around the country, and they're not hurting anybody. They're just having a great time. But wouldn't it be wonderful if you had more guys like that being able to be at Old Trafford in their droves? Because I think, unfortunately, as well, the only way you're going to get like younger fans interested in football is for them to go and watch the match, right? Um, and there's a lot of free tickets being given to kids to go and watch games at the Etihad.
Yeah, well, I mean, there's obvious reasons for
Yeah,
that, isn't there?
yeah.
Very
But
obvious reasons for that.
do you see where I'm coming from? Like
Yeah, yeah.
you'd want more young people to come to Old Trafford or whatever it's going to be at the time and be like, do you know what? This is much better, because if you had the opportunity to go to the Etihad and you had the opportunity to go to Old Trafford and you see 100,000 seater stadium full of atmosphere, you know which side you're going to pick, aren't you?
Yeah, exactly. And to be fair, that hopefully brings it obviously the better days back to Old Trafford, 'cause that's what it's about. It's
Yeah,
about bringing new
yeah,
fans in as well, the younger
yeah,
fans. Because ultimately, I mean, I seem to be meeting more and more Mancunian Liverpool fans at the minute, and it sends my head west. It
that
hurts my
is
brain that
bizarre.
that is the case. So it's all about like football's cyclable, in it. You know, you bring new
Yeah,
fans in, the young, you win things and stuff like that. But I think I was just in the privileged position of being local to the ground and all that sort of stuff. But that is what happens with football. You win things, you bring new fans in, and having
yeah,
that match day experience the older they get is part of it. And that's what it's all about, isn't it? Going to
yeah,
football with your mates, going for a beer if you drink, going for food afterwards, going into town, going whatever. Taking your partner. There's so many different ways
yeah,
of what a match day experience can be, and a
yeah,
new Old Trafford can do that. My only thing that I'd want is I'd want it to be on the same spot,
yeah,
because I
yeah. That's
still
the same
feel
here.
it
Yeah.
can't be moved. It'd still feel like Old Trafford to me then if that
You
was the case.
still you still want all the same sort of memorabilia and monuments and stuff there as well, like the statues and stuff like that. You
Yeah,
don't want
exactly.
them taken away. You want them to still be around. That's why, hopefully, if they can keep Old Trafford and build one right next to it, that'd be the ideal scenario.
Yeah, and I imagine that's something that they'll definitely discuss in terms of how much room there is and stuff like that. But it seems like a perfect place to end there. Okay, so
Yeah.
thanks very much for joining. Really good chat. Where
Thanks
can
for
people
having us.
find you?
Everywhere is at Kaekurd, at K Kurd, or just type in K Kurd into YouTube or whatever social platform you're on. I will show up, thankfully. I'm yeah, no, but I get onto every social media platform really early just so I could get my handle before anybody else does. So yeah, so
Yeah,
yeah, go
it
and type
really
in K Kurd.
frustrates. Yeah, it's a really annoying frustration of mine that I don't have the same handle across my social medias. It's such an it's like an ick of mine that I don't like, but
Yeah,
I
that's why you've
wish.
got to find like a sort of pseudonym to go by that you could then just have on all your socials. But listen, I'm not gonna sit here and brainstorm new ideas for you right now to call yourself.
Yeah, change my name. I've been called
Yeah.
much worse anyway, to be fair. So I don't know. Some of the things that I've been called, I don't think I'd be able to make a Twitter handle, to be fair, but we can always give it a try, I suppose. Yeah, Kate, that has been an absolute pleasure. Really good having you on, mate. Definitely have you on
Thanks for
again.
having us, and keep supporting the channel, guys. Keep supporting Callum. Keep supporting the channel. And yeah, like I said,
United. Yeah, make sure you check out Kay's new special as well. It's released on YouTube. Kurd Immunity, really funny, really good watch as well. But this has been the UnitedRoad.com podcast on Devil's Advocate YouTube. Always a pleasure to have you in the comments, guys. Pleasure to have you on, Kay. And I will see you all very soon. Cheers.